Call the meeting to order. Will you please rise for the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to welcome and thank our Mayor, Dan Champagne, for joining us, and Town Council Member Polly Schaefer. Thank you very much. And we will start with our presentations. Item 1.0, Rockville Public Library Summer Reading Program presentation. Dr.
Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce our presenters to you. On my right is Sharon Redfern, and Sharon is from the Rockville Public Library. Also accompanying her in our audience is Donna Ender, who is the director of the Rockville Public Library, and Mr. Bob Hurd, who is the chair of the board of directors of the Rockville Public Library. So this is an incredible partnership. This is the second summer we have been able to partner with the library. We expanded a program. They're going to tell you all about it. But the results are just fantastic. With Sharon is Maureen Carney, who is a reading specialist with us, and she is now at Skinner Road School. So I will turn this over to them.
2.5 years ago, we applied for a grant from the New Alliance Foundation to do a summer reading program to prevent summer slide. And we were one of 4 libraries in the state that received the grant. It was a 3-year grant of $35,000 a year for 3 years to do a summer program. This past summer, we did our 2nd year of the program. The program ran for 7 weeks, from June 30th to August 13th. And we broke it down. We had 2 days a week, and the children attended 7 hours per week. K through 1 was in the morning, and 2 and 3, grades 2 and 3 was in the afternoon. Maureen set up 3 wonderful themes that we kind of followed through the summer. We look at this program as kind of a summer reading camp. It's not your typical summer reading program, but it's also fun. It's not summer school. It's a nice mix, I think, of the two. Part of the program is to do the background knowledge, to do some experiential learning. We want to encourage the children to have fun with reading activities. I think we want to see them become lifelong learners. And I think we've been very successful with that. We had 18 children who attended. The children are tested with the F&P scores in the spring and then in the fall. And all of the children who attended the program either maintained their grade or went up by several levels, which was really nice. Do you want to show the program?
Sure. So this is a slideshow that will show you some of the things that we did this summer with this program. So once again, it's ready to read, and it's to prevent the slogan summer slide, which is the dip that the students, that happens to the students over the summer of the learning loss. And as Sharon said, it's a partnership with Rockville Library and the Vernon Public Schools. So my role in the program is to coordinate, and I started out behind the scenes planning and things like that, but in the first year, once I started planning, I really wanted to implement. It was just so much fun. So now that's my role as well. We have 8 to 10 interns that work under or with us, I should say, and they range from actually another Vernon teacher to paraprofessionals to college and high school students. So we train them so that they're ready and able to assist with the kids. So we do, obviously, a lot of reading together. Our goal is, the first year we started, and it was Maple Street School. We targeted Maple. And then this past summer, we added Skinner Road. And we're hoping to partner with a 3rd school for next year. We have an allotment for 50 students, so we'd really like to continue and reach out and continue to help more students. But with 18 students, we were really able to give them one-to-one instruction, or maybe 1 to 2 at different times. but we do a lot of reading together, and we use, this year we purchased a program, an intervention program that we use within the schools called LLI, and it goes right along with the Fontes and Pinnell assessment. So not only were the students able to read pleasure reading books, but also we targeted using the LLI intervention so that it's all level books, and there's hundreds of them so that they could pick and select but be at their own level.
And then they also were able to take home black and white copies of
Yes.
the books they read,
Yes.
so that they could have those at home.
Once again, one-to-one partners, and we'll read everywhere by this. You can see in one of the slides, it's myself with a student, and believe it or not, we're actually reading in Pizza Palace, because you'll see that we did some field trips along the way, and we took the students out to lunch, because it was really a treat for a lot of these kids. And our meals were so slow on that given day that we took out the books that they purchased, that we purchased for them at the bookstore, and we all just started reading in Pizza Palace. So it really was, we take advantage of every moment that we can. You can see reading with partners is a big piece, and there's one of the tutors. And I said even dogs love a good book. A dog, the kids got to read with a dog, and they loved that piece of the program. Another key component that we try to do daily is writing. Writing is so important, as everyone knows. So we try to tie it into the theme and make it fun, and try to make it like a project after they write. And there's always sharing time so that they write and they share with their friends. Another key piece of the program is the iPads. It's amazing that Sharon and Donna could purchase so many, but using the iPads, we use them for various reasons. First and foremost, there's a program called Lexia that we use as an intervention in our schools. So the students are able to carry over where they left off in June and just continue so that there's not even an interruption. They can sign in. There's a home piece that we send home as well, so it's just more reinforcement to continue to maintain those skills. This year also, besides Lexia, we used the iPads because we wanted to do some nonfiction reports and writing. So they were able to gather information with their tutor on sea creatures, or that was one of our themes, or it could have been animals in the rainforest, to then write a report about it. Some more iPads.
We were able to buy 20 through the program. We're buying 5 more this year.
Puppets is the time for puppets. They love the puppets, and I think Sharon loves the puppets more than the kids.
This is our iguana puppet from the rainforest. So I think I bought about 50 of these. I think I bought every single one that the company makes.
The good thing about these particular puppets is it comes with a little story and information about the animal, so not only, we try to bring in any kind of educational piece that there is, but just the whole building of the language and, performing what they do. So that's always, we try to end the day with some puppet shows. 2 special visitors. Obviously, we in the years past, we've had firefighters come in, we've had police officers, and of course the superintendent and the mayor. And they read a favorite story and talk about it, and then the kids can really, they try to make it so that the kids can see that reading is very important in their life and their career as well. We do a lot of activities to try to make it fun, yet also a learning base. So we start out with decorating the book bags because they take home, as Sharon jumped in, they take home the black and white books that go with the LLI kits. Or they take home just other level readers. And it's the give and take and the sharing with the home connection that's so important so that the parents buy into it as well. And the reinforcement happens in our program, but also at home as well. So we let them decorate some bags that would go back and forth. We started in the first week was the 4th of July week. So A lot of the mentor texts that I use are all nonfiction, so we built all information background about the 4th of July and things like that. And you can see they made windsocks. Another theme was the ocean and the beach and things like that. So here's, after doing a lot of the reading and researching and things like that, this is a fun octopus project with Cheerios as the tentacles. They made a fun fish tank. They loved this one. It was sand art in these little lantern containers, and then we bought little pretend candles, and they had a little lantern in which the story was all about. So it's a nice tie-in with the actual story or the research, whatever it might be. One of my favorite things that we did is we did the rainforest, and the students researched all the not all, but a lot of the animals in the rainforest. We learned all about the layers of the rainforest. We really went in depth with it. And one of the final activities is they each meet a mobile with rainforest animals. We had snacks. We tried to make them as healthy as we could. This one went with the rainforest. It's a healthy palm tree. This one maybe not so healthy with the monkeys and lion cupcakes. And we also did some field trips along the way to build background knowledge and give them some experiences that they probably don't have. So one of the field trips we went to, one of the field trips we took was to the Lutz Museum, and the kids just were amazed by it. Besides all the animals that they could see, just all the role-playing and the different things that they could do there. We had a special presentation about chinchillas, and the students could touch and learn and feel all about them. As I said, role-playing, they pretended to milk the cow. This was a old-fashioned schoolroom that they had in old downtown Manchester. So all kinds of different experiences for these kids that they would not normally have. We tried to support local businesses, and this is a new bookstore right in Vernon called Jack and Allie's. And they put on a beautiful presentation for us. They did a story time, and they also, they didn't even know, but it tied in with our rainforest theme, and they did all kinds of animal masks that the kids could make. And through the program, each student received a $10 gift card that then they could purchase a book or 2 books, whatever it could be, through 4 Jack and Allie's. Here you can see them making some of the animal masks. They were so engaged. It was awesome. We did a different field trip to Barnes & Noble. Same type of thing. We give them a $10 gift card, and they absolutely love it. They get it right in their own hand, and they feel so happy about that. And then they can explore and pick out the books. We try to guide them to books that would be appropriate for them. And also, they did a story time for us as well. And they made, it must be some mask making again at these bookstores, but her story was about like cats, and they did masks about that. Our last field trip, to me, was one of the most special, although it did not have anything to do with actual reading. We took them to Target, and it was on the last day of our program, and they were able to purchase, all on the grant, backpacks and school supplies and lunch boxes. And these children who might not have that opportunity to just kind of pick out what they want in the store were the most well-behaved children and the most thankful children that you would have ever seen. They were just enthralled with, they couldn't even believe that they could pick out an actual marker or pen, or, you know, one of them said, "You mean I can actually get that backpack?" You know, it just was the nicest feeling that, you know, knowing what you could do for them.
And they were so excited that we had like 10 Target associates who came and helped us because they were just as excited as the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, do you need pencils? Do you need that? I mean, they had a great time.
It was an awesome experience. So that's how we ended the program, so that then they could start school on a prepared note and feel ready to go.
We also sent home $25 Stop and Shop cards to every family that had completed the program for the summer. We've been very lucky. The New Alliance Foundation has been extremely flexible about how we spend the money and what we do with it. We worked with Connecticut Humanities to do some preliminary parent nights prior to the summer program starting. We ended up having almost 500 people between the 8 programs. And that was also funded by New Alliance. We also got a grant from an anonymous foundation that paid for transportation for the kids to take the bus to and from the program, which we didn't have last year.
And the literacy nights that we were able to put on, we held some at Maple and we held some at the library. And there was a storyteller, and every family got a book, and he talked through a way that it was for parents and children together, and he was able to make it fun but also informational for the parents, so that they would be able to take that information and apply it to other books that they may take out from the library or they may have at home. And as Sharon said, the participation grew and grew and grew once they heard about it. We supplied them with dinner and then the show. And our final presentation, we had 183 parents and children, so much so that we had to break it into 2 sessions. We did dinner while half ate and half watched the show, and then we flip-flopped because it was just, we couldn't even seat them all in the cafeteria, which is just so wonderful. So.
And every family got a book to take home. So we've tweaked the program a little bit. The first year we did it, we ran 4 days in a row, all in the afternoon. This year we just did Mondays and Tuesdays all day long.
With field trips Wednesday.
With field trips on Wednesday, because it seemed to work better for our interns. It was easier for the families. We anticipate doing the same thing. The first year, the library was still in the process of putting the addition on, so we were in those little spaces on Union Street, so we were all jammed into that little storefront, which was really interesting. But this year we were able to be back in the library. We had a lot more space, so I think that made a big difference as well. So we're very happy. We have 1 more year next summer. New Alliance has hinted that they may fund a 4th year. So we're very hopeful about that. Our program is a little different than the other 3 libraries that are doing it. Many of them are doing more parent night kind of presentations. I think we're the one that's doing the most with the children and internalizing the love of reading, and not so much through an external source. So they're very happy.
And the students that we target are the students that have worked really hard all year to maintain or to just be right around the grade level mark. And then we try to maintain that piece. And as Sharon said, we've had great success at that. They've either all maintained it, or even we had some that even exceeded where they were in June. So we're very pleased. We've already started planning for the literacy nights that will happen in the winter with the Connecticut Humanities and the storyteller. So everything's still in the works again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
We really appreciate everybody's efforts, all the interest, so please thank everyone for us. Does anybody have any questions for me before? Laura?
You were talking about the Black Line Master books that you sent home with the kids. What program was that
It's
you
called
used?
LLI,
What does it stand for?
Level Literacy Intervention. It's by Fontes and Pennell, Hyman and Company.
Okay, I was just curious about
Yeah,
that.
so it has the small level books, and then there are the black and white books that are paper that are the same copy as the other, and that way you can send those home. We let the kids keep them, and that way they could have books that match what they've read to practice. But we also purchase other books for them to take home at the end of the summer as well.
Okay, so that's similar to like the Reading A to Z?
No, these are actual books. These aren't like the printouts.
Wonderful.
These are bound, well, I don't want to say bound, but yeah, they're bound books that they just literally are the same duplicate as the colored version.
Okay, you can't have enough books.
No?
Sounds like a wonderful, wonderful
Yeah,
program.
it's
I
fun.
would, this summer, put me on your reader list.
Okay.
I'd love to
Yeah,
come
thank
read.
you, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, and thank everyone who was a part of the program. We really appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to item 1.2, Board of Ed Ad Hoc Athletic Committee presentation. Mr. Linton, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Dr. Charlie Chardon will be giving a presentation tonight regarding the conditions of the athletic fields and facilities. Dr. Chardon, thank you for coming tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, first of all, thank you once again for having me tonight. And I was a member of the Ad Hoc Board of Education Committee that dealt with, that is dealing and looking at athletics here in Rockville and the Vernon schools. And one of the first things that we decided to look at was the facilities. We started meeting in August. Members of the committee is chaired by Steve Linton of the Board of Ed, Ann Fisher, Mr. Rocket, Scott Smith, as well as the athletic director, Dr. Purcell, are all members of this committee. And what we've been doing is taking a look at the different facilities that we have here in the community. And specifically, we've been looking at the high school, both inside and outside fields, as well as VCMS. Primarily tonight, I'm primarily going to be sharing pictures dealing with Rockville High School, and both the outside, the athletic fields, as well as the indoor. And even though there's a pretty significant number of slides, I will move quickly. I realize we have many agenda items on the schedule tonight. But once again, I just wanted to start off, you take a look at this picture, and this is from Google Earth as of this afternoon. I'm not sure when this was snapped, but you get a chance to see a layout of the facilities that we have outside on the high school's campus. And you see in the left-hand side, you have the varsity softball, you have the varsity baseball, the tennis courts, the track, inside obviously football, as well as many times some of the other athletic teams play there, especially for their senior nights, such as soccer this past fall or lacrosse. And then over on the right, you see the JV baseball as well as JV softball. And then also behind, if you look at the bottom of the picture towards the center, that is where football practices also. You also can kind of see where some of the wear patterns are with respect to the field also. These fields are heavily used, they sleep well at night. They get a lot of use, which is a good thing in a sense because that means people are using them. So in terms of, we look at all the different, the mission statement of Rockville High School with regards to the athletic department. You know, there is in terms of working with the student athletes and with respect to developing them and having meaningful academic and athletic programs for the student athletes. This is very important. And we think about tied into obviously this connection with education, and they also learn the attributes of sportsmanship and citizenship for all the different levels of competition. And one thing that I think is terrific, we do provide many different opportunities for students to be involved here at Rockville High School, whether it's the fall, winter, or spring. Also, just to let you know, in terms of my experiences, I have a daughter at the high school in 10th grade that participates in varsity athletics. I have a son that plays middle school soccer for the school team, and I have a daughter in 4th grade. So I kind of run the gamut with different ages, and I've been also involved in coaching and working with many of them through a variety of sports, whether it's softball, soccer, baseball, really depends on the season, basketball in the winter. So just a little bit about my experiences. Now these pictures that I'm going to show you are from this past summer in August. I went up to the high school. My daughter was doing a track workout. And I had my cell phone, and while she was doing all different things on the track, I walked some and I went around and took pictures of just the physical landscape on the outside. And I'll go quickly through these pictures, but you get a sense of some of just the physical structures that we have up at the high school, and perhaps some different considerations that need to be addressed as we move into the future. I also want to just recognize that these things did not happen overnight, and so these things develop over time. And I think as this is addressed, it's going to be something that needs to be addressed looking at both short-term as well as long-term. And tied into that long-term, obviously, is things need to be continued to be maintained, and it's a group effort. Whether it's the town, whether it's the school, whether it's coaches, student athletes, parents, the community as a whole. We all have a part in it. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. So you just get a sense of the fences, some of the different conditions with respect to them. This is from the varsity baseball field, which also primarily the varsity, to my understanding, pretty much plays at Henry Park. This is used for practice, and then the JV, I believe, baseball also utilizes this field, and it's used throughout the year for a variety of different baseball type events. Just to take a look, if you look at the shadow in terms of the fence, this is moving over to the parking lot. Down in the far end of the field is the women's softball varsity field. One area of concern is that in the current location of this field, parents actually primarily from the home team watch games from the parking lot. There's not a lot of bench area for people to actually be spectators inside the fence. And I guess one thing CIAC this past spring was actually charged parents the right to watch a game from the parking lot. A lot of safety issues I think we all could recognize with regards to that. So that's that. You just look at the condition of the fence. You can see it's seen the test of time. There's a couple other pictures. These have been removed, but at the time, obviously, I believe this is an ADA pathway. We don't want to have bleachers, of course, blocking those types of things, and just in terms of the utility of being able to, what events are potentially being watched. Electrical boxes. This is back behind the varsity baseball field, as well as the tennis courts. Pretty much they were hanging on by, I think it might have been one screw. To my knowledge, that has been corrected. Also would just be concerned, just things that control those things, perhaps they should be enclosed so that everyone can't just have access, or at least be able to go right up to it. Storage is a real big issue, I think, anywhere. This is not a unique problem to Rockville, Vernon. It's wherever you're at. And it's obviously very present at the high school. We think about once again, if equipment is left out, of course it's not going to be good for the different equipment to be exposed to the elements. Of course, potentially attractive nuisance as well. Kids often seem to be attracted to things that are laying around, whether it's inside or outside. And I'll share some different pictures with you that demonstrate that storage is definitely something that needs to be addressed. And I think that will go a long way with helping to deal with some of these situations. This is inside the batting cages. You see some sheds back there that are pretty some rough shape, so to speak. Granted, this is in the middle of the summer. I know the Booster Club for softball kind of cleaned these out in the springtime before the season. And then I believe both softball and baseball helped to put up the netting but some of this is just obviously the time of year also. But storage is an issue there. Just a couple quick snapshots. Once again, nets kind of in between, just storage issue. These bleachers, kind of tricky spot, and I believe this is going to be addressed also in terms of where they'll be located. But if you're watching a tennis match, which is to your left, and baseball is being played on the right, foul balls obviously could cause some potential concerns. So we think about where we put things in location to fields, and also do we need to consider perhaps the backstops that we're utilizing, perhaps netting. Some of these are, I think, simple solutions in terms of where you put bleachers, but needs to be addressed. Trash and recycling, all very important, but once again, we think about cleanliness. It goes a long way, and when I say cleanliness, it's all for the people that use the field, being able to have a place to put things away, throw them away. I think we just need to think about where we place these. Obviously, this isn't a heavy traffic point, so that's a good location. The condition of fences. If you notice there in the center, you can see the fence sticking out. Obviously, that is not, I think, how any of us would want to have our fences at home. And a lot of times I look at these things as if this is my house and people were visiting. How would I want my house to be presented? Now, granted, I can't do everything I want to do with my house. A lot of things I'd like to improve. And I recognize there are issues also with a school. You just have facilities as one aspect of the big picture. But some things to think about. Just the condition of the fences. It's hard to see here, but there's a pole sticking out there. That if someone really worked hard, they might be able to poke themselves. The condition of the backstop in the center, there's a hole there. In terms of a question I would have is how long has that been? My understanding has been a long time. And that's the varsity baseball field. Storage, that's next to one of the sheds. If you don't have places to put things, you have challenges, wear and tear, things cost money. Just where things are placed. Now granted, things sometimes get moved by one person, doesn't get moved back, but just general note. Where we put things, once again, you see lacrosse nets. Ideally, many times it's nice to have them out if people want to practice. However, also, is there places to store them, or are they just out there? It looks like there's also a tub there. I believe that's probably for preseason training with concerns if players overheat. Is a safety risk management procedure. Just once again, some more nets. You see the common themes, kind of bent. And the challenge sometimes too is with nets is, where you put them. Kids will find a way to climb on them, hang on them. Obviously there's concerns with tipping and just damage to the structure. Bleachers, these were, to my understanding, these have been removed. The ones that are in bad shape, but you notice the one there in the center. I wouldn't want to sit down on that, or anyone in my family. And you look at the general condition of the bleachers as a whole, kind of flaky. Travel around town and you'll see that at BCMS or other places also. So just some concerns, and I believe those were removed, which I think was good. Just some of these are issues, actually that's poison ivy, I think, that's beside the bottom picture. The people, and this is once again that culture of people doing, students and people not doing what they're supposed to. They climb over the fence gets crushed, it leaves an entrance, an exit. And I think that comes down to the culture of changing some of the behaviors, all right? Storage, once again, the pole vault, if it's out there being exposed, it's not going to last. And you really need a place to put that offline where it's secured, sheltered, so it's going to last. Now we moved in. Now this was not during the run. This was a visit, I believe it was in early October. And going back to those pictures, I just walked around with my camera and took those pictures. That was a snapshot on the morning. I called it a morning walk. Just some things to be conscious of. Inside, this is the gym. Just once again, you just look at, I'm not an expert in these areas, but if things look, maybe they should be looked at. Some of the discoloring, what's on it, that's in the gym also. Just looks like it needs to be addressed or cleaned up, if anything. You look up there on the roof, It's always nice to see some of those nice banners recognizing some of the successes of the schools, but looks like there's some discoloration of the ceiling panels. So that is something that should be, I would think, would want to be looked at. In the gym, I don't know, there's an electrical socket, definitely some concerns. You notice there the cement kind of broken away from the panel there. That was actually on the varsity court. I believe that has been addressed, or at least being looked at. It was a little uneven. I don't think I'd feel comfortable if you fell on it, banged into it. Water fountain outside the gym, looks like it's some type of tape utilized. I mean, this is just some rain training room, obviously. Water fountain in that hallway. This is one of the varsity boys' locker rooms. You just take a look. It looks like it needs some sprucing up. Paint job probably would go a long way. Flaking ceilings. This is actually looking at the floor. That, I believe, is for where there used to be a bench there, and it could be a trip hazard, potentially. That is the corner. I would not want my child in my locker to be in that corner of the locker room. I think this must have been in the hallway, a ceiling tile. This is one of the coaches' locker rooms. Some of the fire extinguishers, that's my hand. Nothing in front of it. So you could just basically reach your hand in. I believe some of these have been corrected. The fitness room, just in terms of how things are stored, that's waste between a treadmill. Just storage type issues. Looking at the roof, some discoloration of the ceiling panel. Definitely something that I would think would want to be looked at as soon as possible. Once again, some discoloration. This is looking up at the roof. Looks like plastic over some padding. Transitioning into this is one of the shower areas of I believe one of the girls' locker rooms, and just kind of wear and tear over time. Storage, once again, this is the space in between the two gyms. Storage is difficult in any facility. And when we discuss storage, we're not just talking about outside equipment, but also inside equipment. So people don't perhaps potentially take it, I guess, or they could start playing with it in the hallway and hurt themselves or others, or potentially damage it, and then wind up costing more money in the long run. Another fire extinguisher that's outside the smaller auxiliary gym. I believe glass has been placed, some type of covering has been placed in front of it. Light fixture, this is in the women's locker room, one of them. Rusting. This is in the smaller gym, around the electrical socket. Storage room in that back gym. Notice the damage on the wall. Lighting fixture in the closet. Storage in the closet, ceiling panels outside that back hallway behind the gym. Once again, some different issues with ceiling panels. And just something as little as this. Looked like a sign was broken off, and you just see the little piece there. Once again, just how it presents itself. And our kids see it, we see it, people see it that visit our community. All these different things that, when people look at our facilities, they look at our community. And, when we think about it, in terms of moving forward as a school, as a district, the facilities play a significant role. And like I said, I view this, from my perspective as a member of this committee, as this is a group effort. And it's not to point blame or say someone's not doing this or that. This is where we're at. And where do we move forward, from my perspective. And some things I'm sure can be addressed much in a easily attainable manner. And then there's going to be other things that are going to, from my perspective, can be much longer term investment. And it stems from everyone. Whether it's the town, school, administrators, teachers, coaches, student athletes, parents, anyone that uses these, the community as a whole, because we support these as well. And they're we need to be taking pride as well. And if you go back and you look at the field complex, once again, if you look at the outside, it's busy. I mean, there's a lot of different things that go on. And we're kind of landlocked. If you notice in the bottom of the picture, that drops off pretty quickly. And it drops down to the rails to trails, which is one of the gems of this community. I mean, we have a terrific trail system that I know cross-country utilizes as part of their events. But we do have some challenges. And one thing I didn't mention is if you look at the tennis courts, in the bottom left, the one on the left, if you go out there, and actually it was brought to our attention, we were up there a few weeks ago on a Sunday, actually Steve Linton, Scott Smith, and myself, in measuring some of the different fields and thinking about, what if we did some reconfiguration of the fields? And a gentleman just came up to us and said, hey, you guys with the town or school or whatever, and he brought us to the back of the tennis courts where there's a light pole, and shame on us for not checking that out previously. But it's the ground is eroding away, and it needs to be addressed also. I could have probably jumped in and would Steve, would you say it was probably up to my waist or close to my, it's from that light pole fixture, it should be
That was
addressed.
brought to Mr. Rocket's attention, and he
Yes.
will make a work order for that, so.
Excellent.
Thank you to the citizen that brought that to our
Yeah.
attention, but that could have been more catastrophic as the weeks and months went by, especially as we're getting into winter, so.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, he stopped us.
Yeah.
Save some money for, our end.
Sure. So if you look at these fields though, we've looked at some different things, and this is all discussion, addressing the issue that I first brought up with women's softball, maybe adjusting the field 40 feet up the first baseline. That would still potentially cover, the field would still fit in that space. Adjusting the soccer field that the men and women play, basically this is on the left side of the slide, instead of adjusting the angle. So it's in between, it doesn't go from like second base to second base, it's more of an angle. You might be able to maximize some space there, and also redistribute some of the wear patterns, which could be beneficial. If you look at the far side, with the JV baseball and softball, some simple things such as with the practice field for football, perhaps making sure at the end of the season, and I know they finished this week at some point, and when the fields can be addressed, trying to address how the field is potentially unlevel after football season, so the teams are practicing on that. Because I heard many concerns related from softball parents related to if their child played the outfield, how uneven it potentially could be. And just from where, because it's used for multiple things. We have some challenges with space. I didn't mention on the lower right, above the baseball field by second base, you can kind of see the wear patterns. That's also used for some soccer in the fall for different teams. And varsity lacrosse, I know, has plays, I believe, primarily their home games there in the spring as well. So we have a lot of different, as you saw in one of the first slides, we have a lot of different sports that go on, which is terrific. But we definitely have some spacing issues and tied into the brief slideshow. Some different things that we need to be addressing, both short-term as well as long-term. And correct, I know Dr. Pacell is here, as well as Mr. Linton and Mrs. Fisher from the committee, but I believe some of these different items have been put in the school dude, which I guess is the administrative system that the school uses. So some of these things are being addressed. In this committee, we're still this is an ongoing process as we look at these different things. So when we spoke about in a perfect world, if we had more space, I'm all an advocate for walking more, maybe take a little bit away from a parking lot here and there, but I know that's not as easily, there's a lot of challenges. So obviously our committee has a lot more work to do and also to consult with the different potential groups that could be impacted. But that's a kind of a brief walkthrough of the athletic fields from both outside and inside. And like I said, I feel this, from my perspective, this is a group effort in terms of addressing it.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Does anybody have any questions for Charlie or Steve? Mark?
Thanks for your efforts. A few questions I have. Is, in your slide, your presentation, you mentioned Henry Park is used as opposed to playing at the high school. What's the philosophy behind that, lack of space?
I think Dr. Purcell would probably be best to answer that. I mean, I know the varsity, the field at Henry Park is a very, my understanding is a very good field.
Yeah, the Henry Park field is a premier field. They've been playing there for 30 years, they tell me. So that's just, they're very reluctant to give that up. It has beautiful dugouts. It's very well kept. It has a announcer booth there. It's just a higher quality field than we have on campus. Mr. Rock and I would like to move them back, but we're getting a lot of resistance from them. They really prefer to play off campus.
Thank you. Now, I go up to the track fairly frequently myself, and I see a lot of storage sheds. Has anybody taken an inventory of what the sheds are used for? Will they have high, something could be lost or damaged by the weather more?
Sure.
Versus something that could be quote-unquote left outside. So the efficiency of usage. I mean, do we know what's in all the sheds, and maybe we could rearrange things to try to help the situation, at least temporarily?
No, great point. Steve, do you want to address that, or Dr. Purcell?
Yeah, I've been through all the sheds. I know what's in them, what needs to be taken out of them. I think we can utilize them better. There's a lot of things in there that I think it's just a lot of cleaning up and getting things, I mean, again, years and years of things not being taken care of properly there. Having said that, I do think we, Mr. Lent can talk about these. He made a suggestion about a different type of shed we might be able to purchase, where I might actually be able to get the soccer goals in there and so on. Some of the items are too large to fit in, but with some work in terms of getting them cleaned out and reorganized, we can get more stuff in. Some of them, because they have a wooden base, are pretty rotted out on the bottom, so aren't as useful as some of the others, but a few of them are still in pretty good shape. The challenge, like Mr. Chatterton said, with the soccer goals, I mean, I think it's very tempting for kids to jump up and hang on them, and then they get bent, and then we have to try to repair those. So items like that, right now we don't currently have a large enough space to put those in, but we're trying to look at, can we purchase something larger to get some of the bigger items into those spaces.
Yeah, some of the photos that I've noticed too, that you seem to exhibit a lot of wear and tear or vandalism, especially on the interior. Does anybody have some kind of handle on how much of it's normal wear and tear versus vandalism, and maybe different approaches with the students and other users, that it's not for their exclusive use, but for the use of the community?
What's great about those facilities is that they're used 7 days a week. You can go up there 9 o'clock, if tonight wasn't, raining, but people will be using the tennis courts, there's people walking the track, because you get the lights off the tennis courts. It's great that the facilities are being loved to death, but we need to keep in mind that we need to fund the maintenance for those facilities, or we need to fund to buy some storage sheds. Dr. Purcell and Dr. Chatterton and I were talking about a metal storage shed. Basically they're called sea crates. Where everything that's coming overseas is coming in a metal storage container, and you pick up a 40-footer for about $4,500, and they're pretty much indestructible. And to start slowly replacing the wooden storage sheds that we have around the facilities, they're basically just they're rotted out. They've been there long enough, they've served their time. But if we can start storing things that are off-season, like the soccer nets, with the soccer balls, chaining them up so they're out of the way, so they're less likely to be vandalized, that'll give us more longevity for the equipment we have. Because we don't have an endless budget, but we need to protect, and we need to salvage, and we need to store properly what we have so we can get more years out of those equipment, so we're not endlessly or constantly buying the same item over every couple of years. And that's both from use and misuse. So when things are out of season, whether it's lacrosse or soccer, they need to be stored properly out of the way, out of so they're not being destroyed. So we have a lot of work to do, but we need to start, when we get into January, we start looking at our budget, we need to start funding these different aspects differently and be a little bit more mindful of this, because it's great to buy new, but we also need to keep in mind we need to maintain that. So.
The only observation I have is really that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit at the moment.
What's that part?
A lot of low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
In other words, you can get a lot done pretty cheaply.
Correct, I agree with that.
Mrs. Bush.
Have you set up a list of priorities? Because there should be some type of, the most critical things to be handled first, so that when it does come to budget season, we can focus on those and get them handled. And then as we are able to take care of things, we can slowly get the things fixed. Because like you said, it took a long time to get us this way.
Didn't happen
And
overnight.
it's not going to happen overnight to get everything fixed. But if we need to plan, we need to make sure that the most critical things are taken care of first. And as budget is able to be, as we're able to budget, we can work on those things. Because I think it's important for our facilities, because it's not only the schools are using them, it's the community that are using them. The track and everything is utilized by people in the community, but we need it to be a safe place, but we also need to protect the things that we have. So like the storage sheds and the storage facilities, we need to make sure that our soccer goals don't need to be replaced sooner than they really do. We need to make sure that our equipment is handled well as well.
Yeah, and a couple items I did not mention, even in the smaller gym, such as padding. If they're using those for games on the baseline, you really want the entire baseline padded and coming like 4 inches off the floor up to 6'4". Of course, not everyone when they're playing basketball determines that they're going to run right from the key to the pads. And that's a similar issue with VC. I didn't really discuss VCMS, but that's a concern also. So I know as a committee we've discussed that in terms of prioritizing the different items. I don't know if Mr. Linton or Dr. Purcell want to add anything at this point with regards to prioritizing, but we do recognize that yes, these things need to, what can be addressed right now, long term, and obviously what needs to be taken care of.
Thank you. Thomasina.
When I see the discoloration, oh, I can't even talk. When I see the discolorations of the ceilings in the showers, has anyone done any testing with molds?
Please do.
Generally, we don't test for mold. If we see discoloration, we need to take care of it, remediate it. So you need to take the tile down, see why it became, was this an old leak before? If you recall the roof on the high school, if you look at this, you can see all the white part, that's all new. And so this could be from before that time. And if it's been remediated, then you put up a new ceiling tile. If it hasn't, you need to fix the leak. So you can just assume that there would be mold if there's discoloration.
That's what I was gonna
Right.
say, so why don't we test
Right.
for mold?
But you can assume it's
You can
there. You
assume
wouldn't
it's
need
there.
to test. You have to remediate and make sure that you get rid of the leak or wherever the water came from in the first place.
Is that one of the priorities you think that's gonna be on the list? Because that's an important one.
Actually, if I could just say one more thing, all 7, 8 schools are involved in Tools for Schools, and that is one of the things that they look at. So there is a committee in every school that looks at discolored ceiling tiles, make sure that they're followed up on, any other indoor air quality type issues. And so that's a very, very active committee in each and every school. So when I'm watching these slides, I'm wondering how the gyms got missed. Because if those are really new, then we do have a problem, but I don't think they're new. They look a little older than this year.
Have you had a problem with students complaining about allergies?
None that I know of.
Okay.
No one's reported to me.
Mr. Rocket has sat down with Mr. Peluso concerning all the school do issues, all these troubles, and they've made up a long list of things to start addressing, and that is on that. Dealing with ceiling tiles, checking for mold. So that is in the process.
Okay.
So that is coming about and being corrected.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Well, thank you very much for putting that together, Charlie. We appreciate you sharing that with us. Move on to item 2.0, the consent agenda. We have A through H. Anyone want to make a motion? approval.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Does anyone want to pull any of these items? No? Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 3.0, Secretary's Report, opportunity for Board of Education to add or delete agenda items. Does anyone want to add or delete an agenda item tonight? No? Okay, 3.2, Student Representative Report. We have no students here tonight. So we'll move on to item 4.0, Community Forum, opportunity for comments on agenda items, potential future agenda items, or general information provided to the board from citizens and community organizations. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board this evening? Moving right along. Item 5.0, Curriculum. 5.1, Fall Update from Instructional Coaches.
Our 3 academic instructional coaches are present. We also have our 2 curriculum leaders. This is Mr. Shaker and Mr. Testa in the audience. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Burt to introduce the presenters. Okay.
Well, good evening, everyone. As we've done in the past, we're just going to provide you with a brief update on the activities. We feel that our instructional coaches are a key aspect to changing our instruction at the elementary level primarily. Also, they've done a tremendous amount of work with our curriculum, and we've also tasked them with getting into every classroom across the district and every elementary building, as well as meeting with all the elementary teachers at their grade level meetings this year. So we're going to get a true flavor of where we are instructionally in the district, as well as some of the areas we need to improve. Again, I want to welcome them, and I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Okay. I was going to introduce us all. Good evening. I'm Paula Hughes, Jenny Fisher, and we have a new face joining us tonight. For those of you that have heard us present in the past, Karen Eklum is joining us, replacing Jen Miller, who is resident principal at Maple Street now. Karen comes to us from Skinner Road School, where she was reading consultant, and we're very fortunate because all 3 of us worked together for many years at Skinner Road School, so we believe we make a really strong team. This year we are instructional coaches for both literacy and numeracy, so that we can meet the needs of all the teachers in those content areas. And tonight we're going to highlight a few of our larger initiatives that we've been working on this year, including curriculum and assessment, professional development, and support of new teachers. Karen?
As part of our work on curriculum, we were asked by Jeff Burt to develop curriculum documents that included the standards, the objectives, essential and focus questions, and concepts and skills for each of the reading and writing units across all of the elementary grade levels. These documents support the implementation guides that were created last year and will be presented formally at an upcoming board meeting. To support the writing curriculum, we worked with Jaya to ensure that each classroom teacher received a set of the Lucy Calkins writing units of study. These units include lesson resources and assessment rubrics. We attended grade level meetings and or staff meetings at all of the elementary schools to introduce these writing materials and to develop the teacher's understanding of the rubrics. These Calkins rubrics are going to be replacing the trait writing rubrics that we had been using. The new rubrics are aligned with the Common Core and are specific to both the genre and grade level, whereas the trait rubrics that we have been using, there was one rubric for K-2, so it wasn't specific by grade level, and the same rubric was used for all 3 of the writing areas. And then our second rubric that we had been using was for grades 3 to 8. So it covered a really large spectrum of grade levels on the same rubric, whereas now the Lucy Calkins ones are grade level specific and genre specific. So we feel like they offer the teachers a lot more valuable feedback. We'll be providing ongoing professional development with these writing resources throughout December. We're leading half-day sessions with each grade level, and during those sessions we'll focus on how the assessments can be used to guide instruction and ensure that they're being used consistently across the grade levels and across the district. We are also creating assessments for the end of each reading unit for every grade. And in order, we use those to assess if the students have mastered the standards that are in that curriculum unit. And those assessments are on our portal, and they're aligned with the Common Core expectations and our curriculum expectations for each unit. We are also creating and revising the district's performance tasks. Those are the assessments that align with the content in our curriculum units and the expectations of the SBAC assessments that the students will be taking. We've been supporting the implementation of our new Eureka Math program. We all attended one-day grade-specific training that was given by the authors of the Eureka Math program. We used that information at the training sessions to plan and present professional development in our district, which Jenny is going to tell you a little bit more about.
Good evening. So we'd also like to share with you some information about the professional development that we've planned and presented so far this year. So last year, at the end of the year, we collaborated with both the language arts coordinators and the mathematics coordinators to determine bottom lines for instruction for this school year. So as so many instructional changes are occurring, we wanted to make sure that we had a clear focus. Once we were able to identify what those bottom lines were, we were able to plan out our professional development for this year, making it very focused and purposeful. And that way too, whatever we're asking our teachers to do in the classroom is we're also trying to provide them with that support in order to increase their content knowledge as well. So the first PD occurred actually this summer, and we had a 4-day reading institute where Columbia Teachers College came to our district, and alongside our former language arts coordinator as well as our current, we helped organize, plan, and make this opportunity a reality. We had over 40 teachers, maybe about 45, 46 teachers that took time out from their summer for 4 days and participated in this reading institute that focused on Reader's Workshop, what that looks like in your classroom, how to organize it, how to set it up, what the different components are, and what that would look like. It came to a total about 24 hours of their summer that they volunteered their time and came, so that was a great opportunity to really provide teachers with the tools and the learning that they needed to get started with this workshop model. So we were very excited and grateful for this opportunity in Vernon. We also, in an effort to meet the expectations outlined in the bottom lines, which I think you have in your packet, there's bottom lines for reading, writing, and math. One of them you'll notice is conferring with readers daily. So we wanted to make sure that our teachers were well versed on what does that look like in your classroom, because this is a new shift in their instruction. So in September, during our half professional development day, we offered 2 sessions. There was a K2 session as well as a 3-5 session that all teachers were required to attend. And during this workshop, some of the goals that we were able to achieve was we started off by coaching teachers through really analyzing the student data that they have on their students in reading, and how do I interpret that data. And once I have that information in front of me and I can determine their strengths and their needs, then I need to figure out where they're falling on the continuum of learning and reading so I can focus my instruction and make it very individualized. So we were able to talk about how to plan for what to teach in a conference as well as how to teach it. We discussed the structure of conferences, modeling, we modeled right there for them, conferences, what it looks like, watched videos, and left the afternoon sharing some organizational structures for teachers so they can maintain these notes and this information, which is very useful for your day-to-day, kind of just gearing your instruction on every single day for that student. So really, how do we differentiate? This is one very important way to differentiate the reading for our students to make sure we're meeting them where they are and moving them forward. And then in October, we also planned and delivered professional development in the area of math. As Karen had discussed previously, we're now using we have a new math resource, Eureka Math, that is aligned to the Common Core. There's many instructional shifts for teachers in order to really understand how to build students' conceptual understanding, making sure that we're not just moving right to the algorithm, but really trying to build their thinking skills and understanding the process of how to get to the answers. So on that first October day, we really took a look at the different structure, again, of a Eureka Math lesson so that they understood the purpose of each component as well as the timing. So I have an hour block for math instruction. How do I get this all in? And the new Common Core standards for each grade level are very rigorous. So there's a lot of new learning that's happening amongst our teachers. And this has been a great resource to help us move in that right direction. We've also been supporting Bob in his initiative bringing individual grade levels together, where teachers are having an opportunity to really dissect an individual module, is what they call it, or unit you could say too, to really understand how we're teaching our students now. So I'm sure you've heard, across the nation that there's this new Common Core math, and it's not that it's new Common Core math, but it's more about the processes and how we get to the answer. It's not really about the answer anymore, it's more about your thinking. So we have to develop ourselves as teachers to really understand how do I teach our students to think, and it's a different way, because a lot of our students, they want the answer. Just tell me the answer and tell me how to get to the answer. So it's a very different process. So not only is it new for our students, but it's very new for teachers too. So we're learning alongside each other. So we have these individual professional development days where grade level teachers come together. We kind of talk about those shifts, and as well as provide opportunities to plan together for upcoming lessons. And this is going to be an ongoing effort in that area. In addition, the coaches last year were tasked with attending Connecticut Core of Teaching modules that were presented by the state. In each of these modules, they discuss all the different instructional shifts for both ELA and for math. So we just finished attending 10 different sessions. And we're taking our learning and have been embedding these new shifts into the professional development that we're planning and delivering within the district. So we want to help teachers understand that they're not separate entities and that it doesn't need to be, there's words like close reading, text complexity, what does that look like? But we want to help teachers really understand what that looks like within the instruction that they're already doing in their classroom. So we're embedding those shifts within the professional development that we're delivering and planning to deliver the rest of this year. So in addition to those small groups, or not small groups, large groups of teachers and bringing them together to professionally develop them, although we haven't been able to be in individual classrooms nearly as much as we'd like to, but the other work is very important as well. We have responded to 42 individual teacher requests since the beginning of the school year on a variety of topics in both ELA and math, and are continuing to do so.
I was going to talk about New Teacher Academy. In Vernon, we have 17 new teachers that are in their first full year of teaching from pre-K through high school. And Jeff determined that these teachers needed a more specific program to assist them in understanding the inner workings of Vernon Public Schools, including the knowledge of the curriculum and how to access the resources, district and school policies, reporting systems, etc., and asked us last year if we could help him facilitate this series of learning sessions. So our plan for New Teacher Academy focuses on classroom management for the first half of this school year, which is the first domain of the CCT rubric, which is how they're being evaluated. And then the program will transition to planning and instruction for the second half of this year and into the 2015-16 school year. So New Teacher Academy began over the summer at the new teacher orientation, which took place on August 20th and 21st. We provided teachers with 2 resources. One of them is an old favorite, the First Days of School. We were, I think, all able to find our copy of this, and there's been various editions. It's called First Days of School, How to Be an Effective Teacher by Harry and Rosemary Wong. There's just a lot of foundations for classroom management in this book, routines and procedures, and establishing relationships with students, and the things you need to know to be effective in the first days of school, but really throughout your teaching. And then they came up with a new book just published this year, the classroom management book. It's very high tech. It has a lot of icons that you can scan to provide you with additional resources and links, and it goes into 50 different procedures that teachers can use in the classroom related to organizing homework, to test-taking procedures, to how to conduct a parent-teacher conference. So teachers will have these resources for their use this year and years to come. So at the Summer Academy that started, like I said, in August, we presented them with these materials and walked them through various activities related to these books and other research that we had done that was important to activities and issues that are critical in the beginning of the school year, such as building relationships with students, classroom setup, overall management plans that include rules and basically the consequences and rewards for following those rules in the classroom. We also provided teachers with some take-home work to do to help them further their learning and to help them with setting up their classroom before school started. Since the Summer New Teacher Academy, we now hold meetings on a monthly basis. And the teachers come after school, and we meet in two different groups. The Rockville High School and Vernon Center Middle School teachers come first, and we meet with them for about an hour. And in the beginning, we talk about, just have a brief discussion about how things are going, and then we move on to new learning and activities related to those new learnings. And then we repeat the session in the next hour with the larger elementary school group. Our topics have included, so far, classroom transitions, breaking the cycle of student misbehavior, and setting high expectations for student learning, which are all part of the first domain, classroom environment, student engagement, and commitment to learning, which is where their evaluation focus will be this year. In your packet is a list of topics for the remainder of the year for New Teacher Academy. Finally, in addition to our New Teacher Academy sessions, we are going into new teachers' classrooms to observe and provide them with feedback. And what we do is look at the bottom lines and base our observations and feedback in those areas that Jenny discussed. We started this process at Lake Street School because Lake Street has the highest population of new teachers. 7 of the 17 new teachers are there. And the new teachers have been very, very receptive and appreciative of our assistance. They seem to appreciate the feedback, both positive feedback of what they're doing well and some suggestions for improvement. And so, since we've met with teachers over the summer and established relationships with them, and we've been meeting with them on a monthly basis, it just seems like we're changing the culture of teaching and learning and their reception of coaching. It seems to be something that, okay, this is how it is in Vernon. They're not threatened by having us come in and coaching them. They really welcome it, and it's just nice to be well received. We will continue to support new teachers going forward, moving on to new schools and different elementary schools as the year progresses. And these new teachers also know that they can contact us separately if they have questions or other issues that they would like to discuss. And that ends our formal remarks, and didn't know if you had any questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Naturally. Is this the second year of implementing the Reader's Workshop?
Last year, this is the first, I would say, official year of implementing Reader's Workshop. So last year, although we were rolling it out, and we had our units, our implementation guides and so forth, not all teachers had made that transition yet. So with the bottom lines, following that structure and the workshop model and our structures for learning, this would be our first official year that across the district everyone
I understand, because we're kind of doing that too.
Right.
Now, one thing that I know about Reader's Workshop, you mostly work with students one-on-one and conferring and things like that. Do you ever still allow the teachers to do like some explicit instruction in a small group? Because the value of that for me, because a lot of kids come in at different levels. Some kids are readers that want to just take those books and read it, and you still have the kids that need that, basic phonetic instruction and things like that. And a lot of times the Reader's Workshop does not do that for the kids. So do you allow the teachers to do some of that instruction in small group during the reading block?
Absolutely, that is absolutely part of the structure of Reader's Workshop. Not only should they be pulling strategy groups where they're grouping kids together that have similar needs, but also guided reading groups. So those kids that are getting stuck at a certain level and they can't seem to move on, what's holding them back? And then you're really helping them build those strategies and skills into guided reading groups. So small group instruction, strategy groups, guided reading groups, that's all part of Reader's Workshop. At this point this year, our bottom line is really focused on conferring because we felt like we wanted to get that really down and in place. Not to say that teachers shouldn't be doing strategy groups and guided reading groups, that's just not one of our bottom lines this year. So this is going to be like a 5-year plan of different components that are going to continuously be rolling out with expectations for the teachers to embed within their instruction. But small group instruction, strategy groups, guided reading groups is absolutely part of Reader's Workshop.
Okay, I hope so, because I know some of my students still need that basis.
Absolutely.
And the one-on-one
Absolutely.
conferring is good for some of the high flyers.
Right. And I think across our district, we're still trying to really develop teachers' understanding and understanding of each of those individual components and how to really build that into their reading block. So we're making those instructional shifts, but it's certainly a process, and we're continuously trying to just grow our own content knowledge to make sure we're delivering instruction in the best way possible for our students.
I've been on the teacher portal, and I've seen some good things on there, and I've been kind of seeing where you're going, progressing to getting all the modules out there, and it seems like it's going pretty well. I look forward to seeing more of the reading coming on as well.
Can I just add one thing too? We have the Reader's Workshop, which is approximately 60 minutes of instruction, but then especially at the lower grades, it's part of our structures for learning, and it's just part of their balanced literacy block. We also have like shared reading time and word work time, so there's also explicit instruction at other times in reading apart from Reader's Workshop.
Good to know. Thank you.
Mrs. Russell.
Your summer program, how many volunteers did you have? How many teacher volunteers was there?
The Summer Institute, I'm sorry. I thought you were thinking about the library program. We think it was about 46, we had 46 teachers, we believe.
Is that correct?
From our district.
Yeah, 46 from our district.
That's pretty good, thank you.
And they didn't get paid, they came
I
volunteering.
know, that's why I said volunteer. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions? No. Thank you very much. We appreciate all the work you do throughout all the years. We'll move on to item 5.2, Rockville High School Community Service Update.
Thank you. I would ask Guidance Director of Rockville High School, Vernon, to come to the table. And this is the beginning of our third year of community service. So we have 2 years of data, and we've worked on it. I'll turn this over.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As you can see by the data that I provided, because we're only a quarter way into this year, I did not provide you with data as to where we are at this point in the year. Still a lot of students have to do their community service for this year, so I didn't want to use those numbers. But overall, you can see that the class of 2016 is that first group, and at this point, 160 students have completed at least 20 or more hours, while in the class of 2017, we have 218. So you can see by the retentions, there are still some students who have not completed their community service, but are very aware of the consequences of not doing their community service. So we continue to provide opportunities in the weekly Rock News. I provide any new opportunities that come my way, and I put them there for the students. We also go to students, like if we know something's coming up that they're interested in doing, we might contact them directly and say this is available if you're interested in participating. So we do a lot of different things, trying to get them involved.
Do you have any questions? Mr. Cleveland?
How do you reach out to students that might have transportation difficulties or the ability to get their part of it done in a timely manner that is not too invasive or too difficult for them to get there?
We do have opportunities at the high school,
Okay.
so we use those opportunities as well. Also, just about every elementary school in town has looked for volunteers as well, so usually they're close to their homes. So we try to do that as well.
Okay. The 10 retentions and 9 retentions. Just a question that I don't know if anybody has an answer on, but how many students are retained for academic reasons during the course of the year at that level?
I have it,
Yeah,
if
I'm
you can
just curious.
see. And I didn't put just the credit requirements because this was all about community service,
Right.
but there's a few more on top of those that are just based, that have done their community service but are behind on their credits.
Yeah, no, I just, I didn't realize we could retain a student for elective community service.
The board's policy.
Okay.
It was part when we started, it was a big factor that I had tried to push, only because I was afraid of having 200 students who needed 40 hours of community service in the month of May, trying to graduate on time. And so this way we can hold students accountable and get more consistent community service for them through their opportunities.
Now, one other question, if you're in another community group, can you cross-apply your community hours from one group to another?
Yep, students double dip.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mrs. Russell?
I noticed that you have a limited, which I appreciated, a limited amount of places that the students can go.
I just wrote a few.
You just wrote a few. Thank you. Because I was going to give you a few more.
You can check to see if I have them,
Okay.
and I can check my list, but yeah, I just put a few down.
Okay, thanks.
Mrs. Bush?
It is community service, is it just Vernon, or can they go outside the community?
They go outside of the community.
And if there are things that come to you, do you openly take them, or if the kids come up with ideas, do you openly say, oh, that's a great idea, maybe put it out there for others?
Yeah.
Because I know I don't like the idea of having this many students not, not being able to be moved up for the grade because of that only. Because it's something that should be inbred in them. They should be doing community service. Just this weekend, we had opportunities for them for the food bank and
There were
things
many
like that.
students that participated.
That's wonderful, and that should be something that is in their whole life. They should be doing. So I like this, but it just worries me that we have, 22 one grade and 17 in the other, just because of community service. So it's a little worrisome. I hope we get parental support to make sure that that happens.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for the update, appreciate it. Thank you. We'll move on to general business, 6.0. 6.1, school improvement plans.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. We have the 8 school improvement plans in your packet, so you've had those for a couple of days. Are they perfect? No, but are they getting there? Absolutely. The principals have worked with their school governance teams and their building leadership teams, getting information from the grade level teams, aligning everything with the district improvement plan, making sure that the 3 major goals are either the board's goals or aligned completely with them, that the objectives are particular to their school, but also align with the objectives for the district. So we do have, obviously, quite a few principals here. So I hate to invite them all up to the table, but they are here, and we do have a microphone. So if you would like them, I didn't ask them to present because you have the material, but we can pass the microphone around if you, or would you all like to come up to the table? No. A little bit of shaking of the head. But they are well versed in their school improvement plans, and so any questions, Mrs. Fisher? Again, Mr. Poole.
I guess it's just a general question. I saw a couple of the different buildings had the school governance councils in there as one of their strategies. strategies. And I'm curious, I've heard mixed reviews as to how those governance councils are coming together. And I'm just curious if there's any feedback, about that strategy that you're.
As an overview before the microphone gets passed around, I would say that each school governance council is molded by the school community itself. And so they decide what work they are going to work on each year. They do review the school improvement plan, but they make a decision. One school may be worried about bringing parents into the building or connecting with parents in some way. Another school governance team may be concerned about attendance or tardiness. And so there are a lot of different things that they want to focus on as a committee or as a council, as well as support the entire school. So they're not all operating the same. They all decided on the best way to educate themselves about school governance councils as well. I think one group, or maybe more, had an outside person come in from CABE or from the State Department. Some watched webinars. So there were a lot of different ways that they educated themselves and came together as council. So I've summoned, does Mr. Harrison, you have the microphone. Excellent, thank
I'm
you.
lucky enough to be sitting over here by myself, so they handed it to me first. So, this is our second year doing governance council. Just in general, it's been interesting. It's been educational. I think it's worked out pretty well. We did have some training from an outside person come out last year just to help us get off the ground. One of the things we did tackle last year was the school improvement plan. We also tackled the home to school communication compact. So there's been a few things we've done. Parents have been great. It's kind of one of those things that you kind of navigate your way through. You're not sure how much they're going to have as far as weighing in, or where exactly they step in and we step out. But I think we've presented, again, the school improvement plan, again, with our goals of improving school communication and working with the community, because on every governance council, you not only have parents, you have teachers, but you have community members involved as well. So I think it's been educational. It's nice to have different points of view from not only parents and teachers, administration, but school community people. We have someone who comes and works with Kids Safe, so they're interacting with these kids away from just the school hours. So it's been interesting, it's been educational, and I think it's so far it's worked out well. That's the perspective from the middle school. Anyone from the elementary school?
While that microphone is being passed over, if I could add that although he said in their second year, if you recall, Northeast School has just reached their second anniversary this month. Maple Street will not reach its first anniversary until the end of January, beginning of February. So they haven't been in existence for 1 year, and all the other schools this month and next will reach their first anniversary. So they really are new, and that's why they would still leave that as a strategy. They're still figuring it out, what their role is. So is there another principal who'd like to share?
Sure, I'll share about Maple Street School. Like Dr. Conway said, we kind of have just gotten started with our school governance council. When I got hired back in May, we actually had our first meeting where we had CABE come in and they did a workshop with all of the members. Starting off this school year, we started to work on our school compact with the parents, and that's where we are right now. So we're working on a compact, what the parents will do to support their children at school, what the school is going to do to support the children, and what the children are also going to be accountable for doing. So that's what we're working on now.
At Center Road School, we started actually December. Next month will be our first full year. Our first meeting was last December, and we spent a lot of time going through what, as Dr. Conway had said, what a school governance council is, what it isn't, what we can do, kind of charging ourselves up for what we want to prioritize to help the school community. We spent a lot of time on bylaws and building those, and this year we were able to hit the ground running with looking at the school improvement plan. They did take a lot of time to review our plan from last year and help with suggestions for our plan for this year. And we also started talking about some of the budget processes that'll be coming up. And we are fortunate enough to have a couple of parents that are also active as far as where PTO is concerned. They attend a lot of board meetings. So those parents can help educate the other parents on the committee and the community members on some of those budget things that come up and how the school governance council can help influence what happens. So that's where we are now.
Do you want to go to every principal? Is that enough?
That's good.
The rest of you are.
Thanks for that insight.
Mrs. Bush.
First, I'd like to say thank you very much for making the plans easier to read, and they're very much similar, so we're able to do a little more comparison. I want to say at Center Road School, thank you for filling the kids' buckets. I love that book, or the other books that are out there as well. And I know my class are a bunch of bucket fillers. So it's a really good program that coincides nicely with the PBIS that you're using. Just want to say that's a great idea. And I also want to say that the plans are very straightforward and clear, and I think they're very substantive, and I think they're well done. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? I just have a question for Center Road in regards to the American Library Association, One Book, One Community. Could you explain what that is?
Sure. Actually, this idea was brought to us by one of our reading teachers. Her son had participated in it at his elementary school. And the whole idea is, well, one book, one community is in a way self-explanatory, where we choose one book that the whole school community could share. And we are going to start small with just grades 3 through 5. Some places that we researched has gone as far as the entire school, and even the public library being involved and businesses being involved. But for us, we will start with grades, like I said, grades 3 through 5. We are just going to start putting a committee together to look at that. We finished our K2 literacy night, so now we'll go to the grades 3 through 5. And we do have to pick a book, again, with something. The idea is to have all the families have a copy and read it together. We would read some of it in school, some of it at home, and then brainstorm how we would have a book talk about it, if it could be something that we do at night, something during the day, maybe a combination of things, but with the idea of bringing the whole school community together, the parents together, the teachers and staff members together in that grade level for this year. And also thinking of a title that could also relate to maybe our core values of respectful, responsible, reliable. So you're tying together all pieces of the school community.
Great, thank you. That sounds great. Well, thank you for all their plans. They, like Laura said, they are very easy to read and understandable and consistent, and we appreciate all your hard work on putting us together. Thank you. We will move on to item 6.2, update on enrollment class sizes at BCMS and Rockville.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. I'm not expecting certainly any action on this. I wanted to share with you so that you could start wrapping your heads around these numbers. Mr. Harrison and Mr. Rocket, Mr. Burt, Mrs. Buell, and I have been looking at these numbers for over 2 months now. And just the first blush at them, you can see that in some of the classes, the numbers just appear small. Now, there could be reasons for that, because let's say you're going to take German 3 and German 4. Those classes would be held at the same time, and the classes would be differentiated. So there isn't a German 3 class of less than 5 children and a German 4 class of less than 5 children. They would meet at the same time. And so the teacher would be doing double prep during one period of time. But when you look at these numbers, we wanted to be completely transparent with the board. When you look at the numbers, you can see that there are some numbers that are small. As an example, on the second page of the first part of your packet in BCMS, right in the middle, when you look at Mathematics 7, which is just over halfway down the page. And you go all the way to the right, you can see that we have several classes of 12, one of 13, one of 14. Those are wonderful class sizes, so of course my expectation is that these children are all getting individual attention and are getting A's. So we are looking at the numbers. We want to be, as I said, certainly fiscally responsible as well as educationally responsible, making sure that students have the education they need. In the high school, very similar. You can see some of these, and there are some courses that are very small. If you look at the art department at the beginning, you might see a sculpture class and a clay works class. They might meet at the same time, and students are doing more independent work and the teacher going back and forth. So it's not as if we have a class of just three students, but they are still relatively small. If you recall, the board's policy indicated at the high school level, we were looking at classes no smaller than 15 and no larger than 25. That was the range the board set out in their policy. So we do have classes smaller than 15, quite obviously. Again, this has happened over time as our enrollment has decreased, and we need to look at that. We can't do things the way we've always done them. We have to look at them and see if we can do them a little more fiscally responsible while maintaining the educational integrity of each of these classes. So I would also draw your attention to page 2 on the RHS 4-page packet, excuse me. And about 2/3 of the way down, you'll see Algebra 1 College. And if you go all the way to the end, you can see this, from the second column to the end, the average class size is 13.5. And if you look to the right, you can see there's a class of 9, of 12, a couple of 12, a couple of 13. So those are relatively small classes when you look at just the Algebra 1. And these, I'm just showing you 2 examples of core areas. You will receive proposals for a little bit of arranging here, where we will probably increase class sizes a little bit. We're not looking to increase class sizes to 25. But certainly we think that they can still be very effective and be higher than what they are right now. So that will come on January 12th. But I wanted you to have these numbers in advance so that you could look, so you could ask questions. Please email questions. I will forward them, or you can email Mr. Harrison or Mr. Rocket specifically if you have questions about these. And again, remember, not all of them are singletons. Some of them are courses that are joined, that they would have joined. So I don't know if you have any questions right now. I don't think Mr. Rocket is here. I know Mr. Harrison is here. So perhaps we can answer some questions that you do have. Mr. Gould?
I think you started answering the question, and that is that how many of the classes are more than one level in the same grouping. And I guess if we could get a better sense of how many of those exist, I mean, looking at the numbers, there are a lot of them that are very, very low. I figured it was going to be a very long night talking about some of how small some of those numbers really are. And I'm just, I know the high school is always bringing new programs that they want to increase what we give to the kids, and I understand that, but I think understanding how many of those are grouped together would help us to get a better picture.
I think Ms. Marion has left as well, but we can probably combine those, maybe even just asterisk them so that you know that they're combined with another class. That may help, and I can give you that data again.
Yeah, I think something like that would be helpful to understand how many of these different groupings are grouped together, because, I mean, there are a real lot of small numbers, aren't there?
And there truly are some small classes. There's a music class, the band class, you can see one of the sections has only, I think, 7 students, and the other one has 31 students. But that may be for scheduling, so altogether, certainly there are 38 students in the class. So you would need 2 sections, and that's the way the scheduling worked out. It'd be nice if they could all meet at once for band, but that's not to be. So, but there are others, the basic piano keyboarding, there are 8 students in one class and 9 students in the other. So if we want to offer and grow the program, sometimes that's what happens as well. But you're right, there are many classes here that are relatively small.
I remember at times when Ms. Vernon has come in to tell us about new proposed classes, that she has indicated that there are cutoffs for certain classes. And I'm wondering how often we do use those cutoffs, or what is that cutoff?
The bottom number or the top number?
Whether we'll offer a class. How many do you have to have as a minimum in order to even offer a class? And like I say, some of these numbers just seem low if it's just for that one class.
They do, and I think we've gotten into the habit that we have the staff, and so we have the availability of offering students courses, and so we've been doing it. I think, which is a wonderful thing. I think we just need to look more carefully at what that is and how are we offering it. And at one point, we may have to say no.
Or look for different means to deliver,
Yes,
such as some
absolutely.
of the, we heard about some of the digital learning that's going on a couple weeks
Yes.
back.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think if you can offer it that way and save a teacher for the larger number.
Absolutely. Mr. Klein.
On page 3 of ECMS, there's 2 items called resource reading. Is that broken out by grade because it's like 2 separate listings?
Resource reading would be a special education teacher or a reading specialist working with a small group of students. So those numbers 7 and 5 are probably very real and they're separate. The teacher would be meeting with 5 students, working individually with 1 or maybe 2 and moving them along.
I just didn't know why they weren't accumulated together like the other categories were or courses. So
Probably
versus-
2 different teachers. Mr. Harrison can answer your question, Mrs. Fisher. So,
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, and I apologize, I wasn't necessarily prepared to answer some of these tonight, but as far as that, there is an occasion where we would have 1 teacher teaching 2 grade levels. So it wouldn't necessarily be just 7 and 5, it depends. If there's a resource reading, if there's a special ed teacher, they may, Dr. Conway's absolutely right, for the most part they're smaller groups, that's why the intervention is more effective. But I do know we have a couple of sections where they're combined 6 and 7, and they're together. So it wouldn't necessarily reflect 5 or 7. It would be a teacher with 12. Thank you.
Mrs. Bush.
Looking at it this way, it is a little worrisome that the class sizes are so small in some of the areas, but like Mr. Hula said, I agree with him. We need to get some idea of what is combined or how we can combine these classes to make them run more efficiently with a reasonable amount of students in each one. You talked about in January, you're going to be restructuring some of the classes so that you have, a reasonable amount of students in, either not too low, not too high, in some of the areas.
In our budget presentation on the 12th of January, you'll see most likely a reduction in staff and the class sizes will be higher, obviously, for next year. So, but that will be part of our budget proposal.
Okay, we're just working through the curriculum and combining some of the specialization courses where one teacher could differentiate and teach several of the arts classes within one or something like that, or just think out of the box, be creative so that we can be more effective and efficient at the same time.
I have a question about the grad point classes. Are those totally online courses?
They are, but they all meet with Mr. Dickinson, who is our blended learning teacher, and so there's kind of a seminar component, so he's there, he's a certified teacher. So he's certified, I think, in social studies, but he's also actually getting his master's degree in blended learning. So students, they may meet during the day or after school as well. So students meet at all times. I think he flexes his schedule several days a week.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you. We'll be looking at this during the budget season, I'm sure. Okay, moving on to item 6.3, Board of Education meeting schedule.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. This year, I'm recommending to the board that we do not do once a month to each school. I don't feel we've gotten the audience that we had hoped to get in the home schools. I'm also extremely concerned for all the equipment on the table and behind us here. We put that equipment in the back of a van or a truck once a month. We deliver it to one of the schools, set it up, and then it is left there until the board meeting starts. And then after the board meeting, it's packed up, but then left there again, only to be put back in a van. The board has made quite an investment in this equipment so that we can be available to the public. I think it also drives us nuts saying, where are we tonight? And so I think, I just don't think it's had the community impact that we had hoped it would have. And so my recommendation is not to travel next year. If the board at the end of the year gets more appeals to travel again, then that would be fine. As you can see, there are 2 times that the board has awards. And the fall awards, we always put it at the beginning of the first November board meeting. And so we have had that at Rockville High School. I would recommend that again. The spring awards, we are always trying to find a night that does not conflict with anything else. And so I thought we would put that on the last May board meeting night and move the board meeting, because that's a full hour of awards. So if we move the board meeting to 7:30, then we could piggyback those 2 meetings, and so the board would be there and be able to have a meeting at the same time. And the principals do not schedule other events on board nights, on board meeting nights, and so that kind of assures us that we won't have a conflict at that point. So I would present this to you. The 2 anomalies, of course, would be the day after Memorial Day and the day after Columbus Day. Those would be Tuesday meetings. The 2 other are 2 meetings at Rockville High, day after Memorial Day, and the first meeting in November. And then the time change would be that first meeting after Memorial Day. Otherwise, 2nd and 4th, 7 o'clock here at the board office. I would leave that for your discussion.
Mrs. Bush? One thing that I would recommend, maybe instead of having both our awards nights at Rockville High School, which is a beautiful place, maybe spread it out to maybe going to VCMS and then to auditorium for maybe the May one. I know we've been pretty consistently at Rockville High School for the November one. I just was wondering if that would hold everybody that would be attending that.
I would think so.
I just think it would be a way to at least go to 2 different schools and you know, show off both of their facilities.
The only thing I would bring up would be in May, if it does get hot, BCMS auditorium isn't air conditioned. I would suggest the other way.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, those of us are heat sensitive, people passing out.
Thank you very much for that catch on that one. Like I said, it just having one at one and one at the other, at least we're going to be in 2 different school centers, so if we're wanted in both.
What do other people think of that idea, doing one at VCMS and one at high school?
I'm good.
I like that.
Mr. Bull?
I like that idea, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve the attached board education meeting schedules January 2015 through December 2015 with that one amendment.
Second.
So November 9th will be at VCMS instead of Rockville High, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, is there, do you see in a second, Mark seconded, okay. Any further discussion? Mrs. Bush?
Just the concept of what we've spoken about at the Playhouse District training, possibly making one of our meetings the business meeting. I don't know if this is the time to talk about it, but the structure of the meetings, having like the first one be whichever. I don't want to make a choice on what we have the business and what we would have the presentations. But I don't know if that's something we need to decide now, but it is something, you know, I'd like to consider for starting in January next year.
Next. You mean like this coming January?
Well, that's when the calendar
Right,
starts.
okay, I just want, well, what are your thoughts on, should it be the first meeting or the second meeting? Does anybody have a preference?
What about the superintendent, maybe?
That's, does it matter? What about getting business done? What's a better meeting to do that?
I would suggest that the business meeting be the first one of the month, and we do the finance committee meeting that evening generally, if we can. It's not this month, but next month in January, but we try. I think also, as you said, you had 4 presentations this evening, and that was a lot of learning for you to do all at once. So it's going to be interesting. Our brains may get very tired. I do.
Right.
But I would just suggest the first one be the business meeting if you choose to do that.
What does everybody think about changing the format of our meetings?
You know, it's really enjoyable to hear what people are working on, and it's very useful. But there's something to be said about information overload, all at one time. Let's spread out over 2 meetings. Sometimes I think it may be more efficient, or more understandable, or you can digest it, forget less of it. But, you know, and I can see the advantage of having a dedicated evening to it. But I'm not entirely sure all at once is necessarily a good thing either.
Anyone else? Discussion?
One of the things that I've observed is that when we have the presentations, we have people in the audience, and as soon as we go to the business meeting, we have an empty audience, and I don't know if that will change, so we'd have people here for the presentation night, and then nobody here for the nights that we have only business. I'm not sure how it would work. Maybe we should give it a try for a few of the meetings with the ability to make the change if we need to. I'm a firm believer in give it a try, as my mother would say. Give it a try. If it doesn't work or you don't like it, you don't have to eat it, kind of thing. So I think, I would be a proponent to give it a try and see how it goes before we say, no, it's not going to work until we try.
Anyone else?
I agree with Laura. I'd like to just give it a shot and tweak it, February, March, and if we don't like it, shelve it, and hey, at least we tried, so I like that format idea.
Anyone else?
Well,
I'm okay either way. I go either way. Even if we were to dedicate the first hour of each of our meetings, we have a meeting twice a month. Even if we dedicated the first hour to presentations and then use the second hour for our business, it gives us 2 opportunities to get things done if there is something that needs a motion or needs action. And I think it accomplishes a similar goal of giving the public the opportunity to hear about what's going on in the buildings, getting more people engaged in the activity, and avoiding the information overload. So that would be the other option.
how about a third option? How about mixing it or commingling it so that you're alternating between business items and presentations to a certain degree, because that'll keep people in the audience if that's one of the goals, and allow people to see what else we do besides the presentations.
I mean, my reaction to that is that some people, if they come to give a presentation, you don't want to make them wait 2 hours before they go on.
Okay.
That's just.
Oh, no, absolutely, I agree. I just throwing that out.
Yeah. Time.
That's what I was going to say. That's what you just said. Plus, for me, my brain doesn't work like that. It's either got to be one or the other, so I can concentrate on it. If you mix it up, I don't think that's, for me, it wouldn't be a go.
All right, so where are we?
We have a motion on the floor, so.
Sorry, we got
motion.
sidetracked,
What's the
sorry.
motion?
Motion is just to approve the calendar, the schedule.
Oh, I know, I'll pass it.
Yes, I'm so sorry, I did too. All right, let's vote on the meeting schedule. All those in favor? Now we'll move on to our other discussion. So it sounds like we have two options where we do, first meeting of the month is our business meeting, the second meeting is a learning meeting, or we do an hour at each meeting on presentations and business afterwards. Mrs. Russell.
I like the 1 hour and, and then our business meeting. I like the 1 hour in the beginning and then continue with our business meeting.
We have a motion on the floor so we can move this along. Mrs. Bush.
Actually, let me just have a quick discussion, because I understand where Mr. Kalina is. And the more I think about it, the more I feel that if we do have that 1 hour of presentations, we might get more people coming in. Well, we can hope, but I might just change my mind from that, because we would end up possibly on our presentation night having to do some business. And that would we'd go back into the same way. So I'm kind of rethinking, after listening to several people, that maybe it would be best to keep a little bit of the presentations every day at every meeting, and then have the business as well. If it works for us, it might not work for every school board, but it seems like it is working for us.
Mr. Gould.
I'd make it in the form of a motion that we, as you say, try a difference in format, and be that it make the first hour presentation hour, see how that works out, see what the administration thinks of that, and if we're able to fill that, and see how it all works. So that would be the motion I'd make. First hour is presentations, and then second hour is business.
Assuming it's only a 2-hour meeting.
No, that's what I'm making it. We're making it a 2-hour meeting. That's what it's supposed to be.
I like that. Yeah, looks good. We're already,
I'll second that.
okay. Any further discussion on that?
Just the one thing, if we don't need the full hour for presentations, we don't just stop the meeting, we continue on, but only up to an hour of presentations.
No more comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Hull? Go ahead. So, I assume we won't start this on January 12th since you're doing the budget presentation that night. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. Okay, we'll start that in what, February?
That's a presentation.
It is a presentation, starting at 6.
And learning.
Okay, so we will start that in February now. Item 6. We did that. 6.4, technology 5-year replacement plan update. Dr. Cohen.
Thank you. If you recall, last budget season, Mr. Kopek, Councilman Kopek, had asked administration, through the board certainly, to prepare a 5-year computer replacement plan to share. My sense was that he felt that if we had a 5-year replacement plan for technology, that this would be something that he and his constituents on the board could support in the board's budget. And so we have been working with Mr. Segan very closely. I met with him again this afternoon. He has used our WASP inventory system. He has looked at everything and has come up with a draft that we reviewed today. I would say that it's very comprehensive. I'm very, very pleased with the draft. So I just wanted to give you an update as to where we were, because we did promise we would be back with this. I have sent out an email a little while ago asking the technology committee, which I think is Mrs. Bush, is that your committee? To meet on December 8th, and then I would like to present that plan to the board on December 8th. I have emailed the mayor's office asking if it's a possibility their next council meeting after that is the 16th. And so I would like to be able to present that. We could certainly present it in January as well. So to them. I just want the board to see it prior, certainly to its going to the council, but also prior to our budget presentation, because the technology with the first year of this plan would be in the budget presentation, so that's a whole presentation in itself. So I wanted to give you an idea of where we are. As I said, Mr. Segan's work far exceeds expectations. I was completely blown away. A week and a half ago, we were in the discussion stage, and today we really had something very good on paper that was very structured and reasonable, and so I'm very pleased. He's a terrific asset to the town, including us.
Does anybody have any questions on that? We'll wait to hear about that at our next meeting. Okay, now we're on to item 6.5, discussion on Connecticut Association of Boards of Education Lighthouse District Training Workshop. Anybody?
If I could make one comment, the board 2 trainings ago, so October, determined that it was condition 6 of the 7 conditions that are seen in highly effective boards of education that the board was going to work on, and that was a community connection, communication and community and family. And so this past Monday, well, just last Monday, the board did a self-inventory, so I know not all of you were able to make it, but the self-inventory was to see how often, I think there were about 20 attributes were fully present in the board. And so the board took individually an inventory, whether they thought it was present a little or established a lot or anywhere in between. And I think the questions and the discussion was probably the richest discussion that I've heard the board have about who we are as a board and a leadership team. It was a great discussion. And so the trainers were very concerned that we might not meet again until March, really, is the next third Monday that is available to us. And so the trainers did ask us to set a date in December, and so we have. It's the 15th of December, the third Monday. And so I'm hoping that all board members can commit to that evening, because they want us to move us to the action stage. And I think after all this discussion, the board is right for doing that. So it's great work.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is we talked about our communication with each other, the staff, the community, and we all talked about how we need to improve it, but we want them to give us ideas on how to do that, so we can put it into action. We've done enough talking, it's time to do something. Anybody else? No, you better coach. Oh, in a nutshell. Yep. Thank you. All right, item 6.6, Acknowledgement of Connecticut Boards of Education Award.
Thank you. I had asked for the board's permission in August to apply for a CAVE Leadership Award. We're still at level 1. We have very few things left for level 2. So this is the board's third year in a row that they have received the Leadership Award. If you look at the certificate, the board had actually received it many years prior to this year as well. Six other years from 1999 to 2005. And so the board has obviously gotten the award every time they've applied. We do have a plaque that's to the right of the exit door. And so our 2014 number will go up on the plaque. And I congratulate the board on this award. It's not easy. Not many boards do get the award and continue on with the leadership activities that enable them to receive this award every year. So congratulations to the board. And in your packet, you will see that Mr. Kemp and Mrs. Bush accepted the award from the commissioner and the executive director of CAVE. So very proud.
Thank you very much. And now we'll move on on to item 6.7, discussion on the CAVE attendance at the convention. Mrs. Bush, you want to go first?
Sure. I was only able to attend Friday evening, as well as one workshop on Friday, and I attended workshops on Saturday as well. I actually attended the White House District training on Friday evening to support them and encourage other boards to attend, to set up the training for Lighthouse. That evening, a very inspirational speech from an astronaut, Rick Mastracchia, and it was just such a thrill to, exactly, autographed copy of his picture, but he gave a message that I think can ring very clear in every school district across the country, but in Connecticut, because he is a Connecticut native, and he does come back and give back to the community in Connecticut. And he said that anything that you strive to do, you just keep trying, keep working hard, and you can succeed. It took him 3 times applying to be an astronaut before he was accepted. And he got a little closer every time. And it was wonderful to bring that message back to my first graders that Monday morning with a signed autograph, from him, and a message to them, because I specifically asked him that question. And I think it should be something that we strive for in our district, that anything you work hard for and you keep trying at, you can succeed and you can be anything you want. And it was very inspiring to me, and it really made me think of what we can do as a school district, not just the students, but the teachers and the administration and the town, to make Vernon a great place. And that's just how I felt about it.
I just want to add, he was fascinating because he was one of the astronauts who built the International Space Station. So he said they did it in pieces, and he said they send the piece up, and he was literally outside nuts and bolts. I'm like, oh my God, it was just amazing.
He spent 188 straight days in space. Just imagine that. That's like a school year.
He said every week or two, a ship would be sent up with food and water, and then they'd send their garbage back because they had to weight down the capsule to get it back. It was really fascinating. Stuff I never really thought of. It makes sense, but I never really thought about it.
He got a little too detailed in some of the areas.
It was great. Though. It was really great.
I'm going to let someone else talk about Bill Daggett, but one of the workshops that I thought was really good was the supporting educator effectiveness and student learning through the new vision of professional learning in Connecticut. And it basically talked about the initiative to really look at supporting the educators. And Dr. Conway is on the committee that is working with that, and your name was mentioned. And I didn't even realize it when I was going to this workshop that you were a part of it, and that was great. But it was a great discussion. We went off task a bit, but the discussion that we had in the workshop was really beneficial to all the different people that were there. We were able to talk about how we see it going, and how we feel it can be very effective in all school districts. So that was well done, and it wasn't exactly what they had planned, but sometimes a wonderful discussion can be just as beneficial.
Thank you very much. Our speaker Saturday morning was Bill Daggett, and he was doing a workshop after his speech to everybody. And after hearing him in the morning, I decided to go to his workshop because he was amazing. But he started off by saying he had been at a convention, and Condoleezza Rice was there, and he's like, "What is she doing here? She didn't teach. She has nothing to do with education." What she told the crowd was that 70% of our Americans are not eligible for the military. 70% of people in the appropriate age. And the reason being that they either don't have a high school degree, or they fail the military admission test, or obesity, drugs, or incarceration. So it's pretty scary to think that we're failing somewhere along the way. And they said then a GED does not count to get into the military. It used to be much easier to get into the military, but they've made it a little bit more stringent. But he said our world is changing, as we all know, and it's changing faster than education. He said we have good schools, but we need to raise our expectations. He was talking about the fastest growing economies in the world, and he asked what people thought were the fastest growing one. You know, most people thought India, China, Japan. It's Vietnam.
You're joking.
Vietnam, Argentina, Brazil, Indonesia, and Panama are the 5 largest growing economies, which I thought was fascinating. But he did talk a lot of, he was talking about a lot of, they studied 75 schools in the country that made the most improvement over time. And they did 25 elementary schools, 25 middle, and 25 high. And he said some of the things they did were very simple, not expensive. He said one thing that every elementary school of the 25 that they did and showed great improvement, all 25 of them had their teachers loop from second, third, first, whatever, I don't know, whatever combinations they did. And they said, unfortunately, well, maybe not unfortunately, but you have to have the teachers volunteer for it because it's not going to be effective if they don't want to do it. But I wish that was something that we could do because I think they say they've done studies, there's no summer loss when they come back to the same teacher, which I found interesting. But they say because you don't spend much time developing a relationship because they already have the relationship in that second year. So they also said that of the middle and high schools, I think 47 out of, well, obviously 50, did the looping from 8th grade to 9th grade. You don't have to loop your whole 8th grade class, or teachers, but like if you have a team of 6 teachers, 3 of them can loop up to the high school. And they said that was, and with our high failure rate in the freshman year, I think that would be really effective. It doesn't cost us any money, just move people around, but we have to get people to want to do it, I guess is the problem. What else did he talk about? Oh, and then he showed graphs of how different states are performing in their reading levels, like Connecticut's doing very well in 4th grade, being proficient in reading, but when you get to 8th grade, we totally, we're way, really poor. It was scary, and Massachusetts was #1 in every level. So I don't know what they're doing right that we're not doing, but we need to figure it out. But they said the problem is that we don't, after elementary school, we don't teach reading anymore because they move into the disciplines. And he said social studies teachers are great teachers, but they don't necessarily know how to teach reading. So he said we need to do some really heavy-duty professional development for our technology teachers, social studies, all our disciplines, so they can still continue to work on reading with our students. So it was very interesting. But he has he's willing to come to school districts. I don't know what his cost is. I'm going to pass this along to you, but he's fascinating and very energizing. And if you could, he said he'd talk to staff. I just think their program sounds great. So it was very interesting. So that was.
I just had a question, Dr. Conway. Did you get to see, is it Posse Sullivan?
Yes, I did.
Would you please comment on that, because I didn't get to see it, and I was
Certainly.
not happy.
It was very interesting. Posse, because I can't say his last name.
Sullivan.
Posse shared with the crowd that they have not figured out anything. They're just doing things that the Americans have discovered, but that Americans won't put into action. And so there were three highlights, and I'm trying to remember the first one. The second was empowering teachers, and by empowering teachers, he meant that our teachers spend far too much time with children and far too little time learning and collaborating and planning together. And so they truly need That's what we need to be doing. The third one was play. Their day would be an hour for reading, but the first 45 minutes is reading and the next 15 minutes is recess. And then an hour for science, and that repeats, 45 and 15. And so within every hour, the students have 15 minutes of play, and how important play is to their development, certainly physical activity, et cetera, but also to their brain development. Mr. Bakar, you were sitting next to me in that presentation. Do you remember the first one?
Through the chair, equity.
Equity, oh yes, equity. And equity was a little bit different. It was not equity in terms of gender or race or anything like that. Do you want to share a little bit more, you remember? He was absolutely fascinating.
Through the chair. Yeah, it was fascinating to listen to him speak. And to the equity point, he said you can't take what they're doing in Finland and just place it in the United States because of so many differences. In the equity area, it was social equity and fiscal equity, and their culture is just completely different. They have a full year for maternal leave, is one thing that I remember him saying. And there's all public school, there's no choice, so there's no other options, it's only public school. So I think that was his main point too.
It really was that everyone has really an equitable choice of the public school. To go a little further, every mother has the first year paid to stay home with their child when they're born. And they have the option for 2 additional years unpaid, but 2 additional years where your job is saved for you. So it's a totally different idea of what it looks like. And as Mr. Picard just said, there are no charter schools, there are no magnet schools. However, it's a 4th or 5th grade where the students do split, and they take the technical route or they take really the university route. And that doesn't mean if you take the technical route you don't go to university, but for the most part you may eventually go to a technical school or a trade as well. So that to me seems very young to make those decisions, but it's fascinating. And he really indicated that the equity was the one variable that moved a district or a country to high achievement. So it was very interesting.
All right, anyone else? Michael, you have anything you want? What did you go to?
Through the chair, but I was on Ellington's dime that day.
I know.
Glad to share.
With you.
I think I went to 2 other ones. The building synergy, working collaboratively between towns and boards of ed, and also the Nutmeg District, which was fascinating. And that was my first time going, and so for folks who may not have gone through it, it's a parody and it's fun, but there's a lot of valuable lessons. There was a lot of pearls of wisdom. Tom Mooney essentially facilitates it, and Tom wrote the book on what you can and can't do or should and should not do. And it just covered a lot of ground in a very fun, entertaining way, and they had a mock board go through their motions, and learned a few things. And one thing, cell phones at the table, it's FOIable, so there's some of these questions came up, and things that you do and you shouldn't do as a board member. I thought were very fascinating. So.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you to everyone who went to appreciate you taking the time.
Can I just say I'd love to encourage more people to go next year. It seems like a lot of time, but I think it's really, really important learning that can bring us to be a more effective board.
All right, thank you for that. Now on to item 6.8, reports from Board of Ed liaisons regarding attendance at organizations or committee meetings. Does anyone have anything to report? No? No, Mrs. Bush, would you?
I'm just waiting for anybody else. I attended the NESPTO meeting on November 11th, and we had it was mostly an organization meeting, and they have some fundraisers coming up. They have their holiday shopping fair, which they're working into one day instead of spreading out over 2 days. They're also going to be wrapping at, I think it's Barnes and Noble. They're going to be doing the wrapping on December 4th, 5th, 12th, 15th, and 16th to raise money. So if you have any gifts that you need to have wrapped, bring it over and make a donation. Okay, I just was checking on something. But they will be having Mr. Harrison come in at their next meeting to be a guest speaker to encourage students to attend VCMS and answer their questions and give them information they need to make their decision for next year. I also, can I go on to another place I attended? I also attended the Lead East of the River regional event at Talent High School. I was the MC, and it was a lot of fun. Our Vernon team, even though it is only a neighborhood team, just was awesome. And it's our kids from our schools, and there's also some homeschool kids as well. But they were so professional. They had such spirit, and they did very well. They're going to be going to the state tournament in Shelton, and like I said, I was so impressed. And I would encourage this to become part of our school again, because it was a wonderful thing to have in the middle school when my son was there. And I really am sad to see that it's not in there. So I would encourage that we work a little bit to see the feasibility of putting that in to our schools again. We have we still have equipment that is still available that we could probably use and bring it back to our schools.
Anybody else have any reports? Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 6.9, Public Education Finance.
Through the chair, right before our meeting, we had our Finance Committee meeting led by Chairman Polino. And in the interest of time, if I may, Madam Chair, I'm just going to zero in on the 2 action items for this evening. The first is a budget amendment request in Exhibit D, transferring $2,486.34 from Central Administration Computer Science Curriculum Development account to Maple Street School to replace non-instructional equipment. This was specifically for the purchase of new cafeteria tables that were in disrepair that needed to be purchased. They were purchased earlier in the school year, so they would be ready as early as possible for students. But eventually we knew we were going to need to make up this ground and put some funding into that account so that they can continue to operate and buy additional budget items from that account. So I'd ask for the board's approval on that budget amendment request, please.
Mr. Wood.
Motion to approve the amended request as presented in Exhibit D.
Mr. Polino. Any questions, comments, discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you. The next item is Exhibit R. I'm looking for the board's approval to approve the fixed asset information form to be sent from the board to the superintendent to the town of Vernon so that we may dispose of assets listed in Exhibit R. And specific disposal would be for sale through our publicsurplus.com account. Any funding would go to the town of Vernon from there.
Mr. Wood.
Move to approve Exhibit R.
Is there a second? Mr. Polino. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you, and if I can just conclude, at our next meeting in December, we will have the information that the board requested for the RFP for the feasibility study to review. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Picaro on
this big fat report that he gives us every month? No? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, and move on to item 7.0, to review and update the board's education calendar. Anybody have anything for the calendar? Nope. 8.0, opportunity for questions from the press. I'm not here. Last item. Mrs. Bush.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Mr. Whitten. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.